Welcome to In the Envelope, a podcast from Backstage, the #1 resource for actors and talent seekers. I am your host, Jack Smart, awards editor at Backstage, and I'm here to guide you through every aspect of the entertainment industry with the help of some of your favorite stars. These intimate, inspirational conversations with today's most award-worthy film, television, and theater artists provide you, dear listener, advice on how to live the creative life, personal stories of success and failure alike, and maybe, just maybe, a tantalizing glimpse in the envelope.
I think I'm at my best when I look at the rest of my career as a bonus, because then there's no pressure. I have no pressure to live up to my brand or my vision or my expectations or my lifestyle. I'm at my best when I don't think that way.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of In the Envelope. What an exciting time to be joining In the Envelope. What a treat we have for you today. With Ken Jeong, the voice you just heard, all-around TV comedy legend, I would say, Ken Jeong, and I have to say, a sensational interview. And we will get to that in a second. But of course, I'm the awards editor at Backstage. I'm obsessed with awards. I am obsessed in particular with the Emmys. The Emmys just happened. And I have thoughts and opinions. Shocker. I have thoughts. For those who maybe only know them in the periphery or didn't catch the Emmys at all, The Queen's Gambit and The Crown came out on top. They were two of the big winners. And so totaling the creative arts and primetime ceremonies, the creative arts Emmys happened the weekend before, that very much gave Netflix the lead in terms of amount of wins this year. But I think Apple TV Plus is probably very happy with Ted Lasso making good on its promise of that this was the most nominated freshman comedy in Emmys history, and it did quite well, winning Best Comedy. Congratulations to recent podcast guest Brett Goldstein. But I was happy, too, to see Hacks earning love in the comedy categories. Congratulations also to podcast guest Jean Smart. Is it too late to start the rumor that we are related? I tried to get that going on Twitter during the ceremony and was like, maybe I should have planted these seeds a little earlier. To be clear, we are not related. I was also curious to see in these results how vote splitting is usually an issue, which is when two co-stars are nominated in the same category and they're essentially competing against each other. That didn't really seem to factor in this year. Brett Goldstein beat many of his co-stars. Olivia Colman for The Crown beat Emma Corrin, friend of the show. Olivia kind of proving that she's always a voter's favorite. And then Julianne Nicholson, congratulations, Julianne, on your Emmy. She also beat out her co-star Jean Smart. Anyway, the other thing about this ceremony, of course, was that this is a COVID-era ceremony. We are still in a pandemic. So there's bound to be some weirdness. I thought the weirdness was just about as much weirdness as I expected. The host, Cedric the Entertainer, kind of kept things goofy in these comedy sketches. It was notable, though, that the first presenter of the night, Seth Rogen, kind of poked fun at the indoors and presumably unsafe environment before then multiple people had to then kind of assure viewers, like, this ceremony is being produced and presented in accordance with the same strict COVID protocols that we see on Hollywood sets. But I will say, as a viewer, seeing a bunch of people indoors, it's still strange. And I think that's just maybe the new normal for awards shows. I don't know. So many new normals we're all still getting used to. And then otherwise, I was just very pleased to see, I know the Backstage team in general was very pleased to see Michaela Cole become an Emmy winner for her writing. And her speech, which was kind of targeted at inspiring writers, was, of course, catnip to me. That felt very Backstagey. It felt very this podcast to provide aspiring writers the exact advice they want to hear. And I will say it's fitting today, too, and speaking of advice, it's fitting that we have Ken Jeong on the podcast today because, first of all, he had one of the funnier bits at this Emmys ceremony this weekend, but he's sort of an all-around hustler, an all-around TV titan, even just looking at his entertainment career, hosting I Can See Your Voice. He's a panelist. Of course, he's most famously known at this point for being a panelist on The Masked Singer, which is such a hit. It's going 5 seasons strong. The new season premiered yesterday, September 22nd. But the thing about Ken is that in addition to all of that, all of his insane work in Hollywood breaking through at a pretty older age. He's a licensed physician and a full working medical professional at one point. He still responds to medical issues on sets. So any aspiring performers juggling that life with another life or career, which frankly is everyone, because we all have lives other than our art or our work, they can all relate to, I think, this interview and to Ken's trajectory through the industry, especially, again, those who are kind of getting their start later. It's also just funny, hearing Ken talk about his breakout in the industry, which was in the Judd Apatow film Knocked Up. He plays a doctor, and that was kind of his first introduction to on-camera acting, but he really got to harness his personal experiences in that in a really direct way. And I was so fascinated to hear how his personal experiences still inform these unscripted projects like Masked Singer and I Can See Your Voice, and hearing about how the craft associated with scripted delivery and the craft with hosting or with unscripted reality shows. There's a fascinating overlap there that, of course, Ken is uniquely qualified to kind of reveal for us. Anyway, let's get to this interview. We are linking to a fabulous piece in Backstage on I Can See Your Voice casting. Who knows? Maybe you'll be working with Ken on that show next. And if you are a celebrity listening to this, hey, maybe we will see you taking that mask off on The Masked Singer. I don't know. Have I mentioned enough just how strange The Masked Singer is? I am allowed to say that because the show very much knows it. Ken very much knows it. He speaks about it in this interview. Let's take a quick break and then introduce Ken and get to it. Hey, if you are an actor or an aspiring actor, someone at the beginning of your artistic career, and you haven't signed up for Backstage yet and you don't know how it works, I have good news for you. Backstage is offering 30 whole days completely free just for our In the Envelope listeners. If you visit backstage.com/subscribe and enter the code ENVELOPE, you will have full access to the site where you can make a profile, upload a headshot, upload a reel, start applying to the thousands of casting notices uploaded every single day on the world's #1 casting platform. Again, we are giving listeners of this podcast 30 days completely free to try out Backstage. Go to checkout, that's backstage.com/subscribe, and enter the code ENVELOPE. If you want to be in contention for an Emmy or for an Oscar or for a Tony or for a SAG Award, do as many of the guests on this podcast have suggested and use Backstage. We are here for you. Again, free 30-day trial, backstage.com/subscribe, enter the code ENVELOPE. Actor, comedian, and licensed physician Ken Jeong decided to forge a path through the entertainment industry after growing up and studying medicine in North Carolina, while also dabbling in improv and stand-up. He broke out in Judd Apatow's film Knocked Up and then the Hangover trilogy, stealing the show on Community, his writing and producing debut Dr. Ken, and much more. He now hosts the reality hit I Can See Your Voice, lends his voice to multiple animated projects, and is a panelist on Fox's hit competition show, The Masked Singer. Here is the outrageous Dr. Ken Jeong. Hi, Ken. How are you?
How are you doing? Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for doing this. Are you kidding? I'm so excited. I'm such a fan.
Thank you.
And there's so much to talk about. First of all, are you familiar with Backstage at all?
When I first moved to LA, I would read the Backstage magazines and newspapers and looking for auditions, and so I think every actor who moves to LA is very familiar with Backstage.
That's so great. That is so great. And you have such of course you've spoken about it before, but you have such an interesting trajectory through the biz. And I'm so used to speaking to actors on this podcast, and you're definitely the first licensed physician on this podcast.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I really appreciate that. I was hoping you would say that, and I was hoping we could keep that in the interview.
Yeah, we're all about getting acting career advice, and in your case, it's this thing of if there are any listeners who want to be an aspiring physician or an aspiring actor, you just have such a specific niche here. Do you get asked questions about that? How do I become a doctor or a performer?
Oh, well, all the time. Yeah. and some people want to know how to transition even from academics in the sciences, not necessarily medicine, but sometimes medicine, how to make that transition from like the academic world to the arts world. And I think that's a very fair question. So I think I'm kind of an extreme representation of someone who left something that is a completely different world. That's kind of, there's very little overlap on that Venn diagram of like arts and academics. And so it really is, it's an unusual thing, but not, but it has been done. I think there is some precedence back in the past, but basically you're kind of, it just boils down to, kind of how much you love doing it, either one, how much you love it. It really boils down to passion. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, that's totally what we love. That's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
Were those early career days, like how did you see it? Did you see it as a choice? Like, was it all about trying to find that Venn diagram?
That's a great question. I think the short answer is yes, because there was a time I was a full-time physician working at Kaiser Permanente here in LA, and my wife, I was just dating my wife at that time, who was also a physician at Kaiser, and all our friends our age who were doctors, we kind of had this clique where we're all into comedy. Like we would just go watch movies or hang out, and so we had kind of like this clique of medical friends that had a lot of shared interests and literally the same sense of humor. And so Tran and I were of that clique. I always talk about how Tran and I met and how we got married at Kaiser, but what I don't talk about, I guess, enough is how we were part of, I felt like we were part of this group of friends that had a lot in common. And if I had not gotten my big breaks and really was knocked up, when you talk of pure acting breakthrough, which led to The Hangover, I don't think if Knocked Up had never happened, I would have been fine with kind of the existence that I had back in 2003, which was like I had my, my wife and my best friends, and then I would occasionally, and then I would do stand-up comedy a lot. I would do it at the Laugh Factory or the Improv. And so I was always trying to find that balance, and always trying to find, and honestly, I have to say in 2021, I still am. I'm still looking for that balance. I don't think it ever goes away. Sometimes it's more medicine than the arts, and sometimes more arts than medicine. And it's fascinating. I mean, I think through this pandemic, I've definitely felt more reawakened as a physician. I won't lie to you. So I think what this has taught me is that, just like anything else, a career, like your life, is a series of moments. There is no definitive, okay, the hangover happened. Now, now I'm doing this for a living, which is true, but life goes on even beyond that. So, and life takes detours, and I think as a globe, we're experiencing that now. And so I think that informs my choices now too. Yeah. Sure.
And it's the idea too of like, you've never been constricted to thinking of yourself as one thing. If anything, you're trying to be, like you said, many things. And I'm sure sometimes were you stretched thin? Are you stretched thin?
I think in either area, in entertainment or in medicine, you get burned out, and or at least you feel like you're burned out. So I think that happens all the time if you reach a certain level of aptitude and success. So I think that goes in part and parcel with that. But it's not so much the burnout I've ever, even as a doctor, it wasn't, I felt like it was, I felt like it was time to go. I just felt like it was time, especially after, and that story's been well told. I mean, after I got the part of Knocked Up and after filming it, I just felt like it was just kind of time to go. And I didn't know it. It was my wife that pointed that out. I think I was just coming back home from work, even after filming Knocked Up, like moody and depressed. And and my wife was like, you just got to go. This is your mind and your body telling you to go. So I actually, if it wasn't for my wife, who was kind of urging me to go, like I may not have done it. I've kind of, I think the biggest irony of me is that if left to my own devices, I might just go the more pragmatic route than take a risk.
Less risky.
So
yeah.
I think I have that kind of personality. I think now that has definitely evolved because my wife has really opened my eyes and changed that mindset. So there is definitely that part of when one door closes, another door opens. So,
Sure.
And I've, in many ways, I've just tried to impart that thinking and that philosophy to my kids.
Yeah.
That it's just a series of moments, and don't ever feel like you're labeled or boxed in any way.
Totally.
Just always think outside the box. So I think as I get older, my priority is not only to my kids, but just, anyone who will listen, to encourage people in general to think that way, not as just one entity, because we're all figuring life is an improv. We're just all figuring this out as we go along, and we need to listen and look for flags, whether they're red or blue or green, or I don't know what color are good flags, but I'll figure it out one day and I'll get back to you.
That's life is about figuring out the flags. Yeah.
It's about figuring out the color of the flags, guys. That's what it is. Backstage.
Yeah, it is really cool I think the advice is great. Like, it's also good that, first of all, you make that first leap and it becomes easier to make similar such leaps, right, outside of your own box. But also how cool that it took a third party. It took somebody else to kind of nudge you. It often does, right? We need somebody in our community to kind of know us better than ourselves.
Yeah, it happened to be my wife. But I definitely, if you think of stories that are parallel journeys, it's always one person that in your corner that really has encouraged you to take that risky step. And that's very true. There was risk involved, but I also thought that, to be fair, that if I had not, I needed to know for myself, and so and if everything had not worked out the way I wanted it to, I could have gone back, and I don't think there's any shame in that. So I really felt like I didn't want to put that kind of pressure. Like I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to go back. I mean, sometimes you have to say that internally in order to keep moving forward and to have and to get better at your craft. And I mean, I looked at that time. I looked at it was just a wonderful opportunity to just immerse myself in the world of acting, and that was all I wanted to be, was to be a better actor. And I wanted to be a working actor, a working character actor. That was my goal. And that was it. And because I knew I had left, I had entered full-time acting in a later age. It was like 37. So it wasn't, so I didn't have this design like, where I have to be the lead or I have to be a certain status of actor. I remember later on, one of the first movies I did, someone told me, I don't think I ever told this story before, and someone said, so we're all kind of gossiping about an actor, and someone said this actor had an opportunity to be a lead of a movie, and the movie didn't do well. And there was this gossip of like, man, that's it for that actor, huh? And then I didn't understand, because it was like literally my second or third movie. I said, really? That person's never going to act again? and then the person's like, no, we'll never be a lead. And then I don't think the chance of being a lead again. I literally was like, woo! I thought that person wasn't going to act again. I didn't. Man, thank God. Yeah. And and everyone just laughed. Even I was laughing. I was like, wow, this is, it's just that level of thinking. I just love that.
It is a strange industry. You never know. Like, that could be a role. Like, you do a box office bomb, you can never work again. I don't know. And
there was that kind of, but it was just like, wow, in my head, I was looking at stuff saying, wow, they can't even get a pre-read in my head. Like, I didn't know like what it was. It was just such a, I look back now, I'm kind of embarrassed, but it was like, I was embarrassed at that time. And now I look back and laugh. It's really fun. I mean, it's just, I wish I always thought like that. May I strive for that purity again? I don't know if I'll ever get.
Exactly. Well, I think the late bloomer aspect of your career it can actually be really kind of inspirational to some listeners who are in that same position. Can I ask, how exactly did the big break which it is safe to say Knocked Out was the kind of turning point, right? How exactly did that come about? There was a lot of, like you said, the stand-up. You hosted and emceed stuff like in North Carolina growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I won a stand-up comedy competition when I was a resident in New Orleans. That was in late 1995, and Brandon Tartikoff, who was the head of Paramount and the head of NBC in the 80s, was living in New Orleans, and he and Bud Friedman, who was the founder of the Improv Comedy Club, they were the judges of this competition, and I won. And in many ways, that was kind of my entrance into LA, and the winner got to do some time at the Improv. And flash forward a few years later, when I finished my residency, I kept in touch with Bud, and he got me immediately in the clubs and on the road, even before I was ready, doing the Improv. And remember Harrah's, like the Improv in Vegas, Improv in Reno, and the Improv in Hollywood. And then I transitioned to getting even more stage time in LA at the Laugh Factory, and that really gave me a lot of exposure there, because I was performing almost every night, even with a day job. I just literally was booked every night, which is a rarity in LA at a top club, and I was being seen. And I later got on The View. This is like in 2001. They had like this weird, like, funniest doctor in America. They were like doing funniest fireman in America. It was like, literally, it was 20 years ago, 2001. And they, because of the Laugh Factory, Jamie Masada, the owner, just submitted me to The View and had a connection there. Oh, wow. And I won that one. I won like funniest doctor in America. And it was just a very, very surreal thing. And then that led to Comedy Central, like appearances on Comedy Central and BET's Comic View. So around 02, 03, I think in the comedy community, people started knowing who I was. I mean, although it's a very big community, it's also a very small community where people just know who's on either starting out, on the rise, on the decline. So everyone kind of knows each other. You just rub elbows in the clubs, which is pretty amazing. Like, you get to meet some of the biggest comedians ever, if Chris Rock just pops in, for a set. I mean, you can just see him like live. So in that way, stand up is amazing. Put in the time. Yeah,
you're
putting in the time, and then you're literally watching the greats. You're having the best seat. And if you're a regular at a club, you can just watch some of your heroes over and over again, see how they do it. So I thought that in many ways, I'm really nostalgic for that, because I thought that was an amazing kind of climate back then that we had. And that led to me getting a theatrical agent who got me a lot of auditions, and a lot of times it wouldn't even get. I literally was just pre-reading. It wasn't even putting on tape. Sometimes on tape, but it was just getting my feet wet. He was with a boutique agency, and he was just starting out at the same time I was starting out, and one thing led to another, and that led to me getting a part on The Office. I think it was a co-star role. Yeah. And Allison Jones was a casting director, and she really was an early champion of mine. And so it casted me in The Office, and then casted me in Knocked Up, which was the biggest break. And it was right after The Office I got the part in Knocked Up, and in 06. And that just changed my life. And then when The Hangover happened, I think I did Role Models and Pineapple Express, and Judd really took care of me at that time, because he knew I was quitting my job. And I told him I was quitting my job, and he cast me in about 4 or 5 of his movies as a day player, like Pineapple Express, Step Brothers. He'd actually cast me in Drill Bit Taylor with Owen Wilson, and then Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But I think Drill Bit Taylor, they end up going with someone older. And I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think I was filming Pineapple Express at that time. And what was amazing, to this day, I'll still get a residual check of a few cents from Drill Bit Taylor, and I was never in the movie. So he had taken care of me, and I'll never forget that. Like how early on he had just, he would call me every so often and just go, you doing anything? And like, no. I was like, you want to be in Pineapple Express, or you want to do that? I mean, he really took care of me. And people like him are rare. He really felt, and he's like this with so many actors. So many actors will tell you at that time, he really just watched out for people, and and then that led ultimately to Role Models and The Hangover. And I remember seeing Judd at an Emmy party years later and he asked me if I was doing the sequels to The Hangover. And I said, yeah. And it moved me. He just was like, great, I don't have to worry about you anymore. It was just really sweet. It was really sweet. So nice. And to this day that, here we are 14 years later, just, 15 years later, really, since I filmed Knocked Up. So it's, it still resonates with me and still inspires me. Yeah.
Was it a coincidence that you're playing a doctor in Knocked Up?
I had auditioned, when was it? In March of 2006, I think, for that part as a doctor. I think Judd was looking for actors with medical experience. I think he was looking for authenticity. Okay. I think the urban myth was that I was like Judd's wife's OB. I think Dan Harmon asked me that one community, like, is it true that you got your start because you're the family physician? Like, no. But no, it was I do remember it was a very long search for that role. I remember putting myself on tape for Allison in March, and it was one of those things like you forget about it, and then 2 months later, they had not found the right person, and then I was invited to do the table read. It was like a week before production, and with the whole cast, but I had not gotten the part yet. It was still. It was, I knew going. It was almost like maybe the worst callback, the most intense callback ever. Because in my head, I treated it like it was, this is a callback. It was literally like maybe I was in the running for the part, but knowing that I hadn't booked it yet, I think Judd just needed to see me live, and I remember preparing really hard for it and really, that kind of was my do or die audition looking back now. I mean, Absolutely. Judd was there, and it was so intimidating because everybody at Universal was there. I'm sure all his, Judd's, writer friends and peers, like, I just couldn't even look out. I did not want to even stargaze, it was, I was in kind of like work mode, like as if I was on the set. And then, and also you're sharing the stage with, literally Seth Rogen, Katherine Heigl, Adam Scott, Jason Segel, Jonah Hill. It's so intimidating. Everybody in the movie who are now big stars. So I had to, I'm so glad I prepared and was really locked in. And I think I think I was locked in and kind of behaved as if I was on set, having that focus. Because, it's funny now, I'll do table reads, and if you get to a certain point where you just joke around and like, oh, hey, how are you doing? It's like sometimes they're important, but they're sometimes not important. This was important. Yep. That first one. And so I kind of behaved as if my career depended on it, and it kind of did, looking back.
No pressure.
Yeah. But and I do remember Judd said I did well. He said fantastic, and it was on a Saturday, I think, and he said, "I'll go. We'll be in touch or something." And then I think on a Thursday, I think I got it. It's funny how you still remember those things 15 years later.
Most pivotal week of your life.
Yeah. I don't remember what I did yesterday, right. But I don't remember what I did last month filming. Totally. But yeah, I remember I still remember every single moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And of course we always ask about audition advice. Do you have an audition like philosophy? Has your approach to auditions changed over time?
I had an acting mentor who helped me out in Knocked Up and Hangover and Role Models, and even early on the first season of Community. That was really, and I had never had a formal training, but had a private coach. And it's my goal at that time, having quit my job, was just go all in. I just prepare. Sometimes there's a danger in being over prepared. Sure. So, and I recognize that. But I actually would rather go onto a set, knowing if I was a producer or director, I would rather have everyone going on set prepared than not. Yeah. I think that even if it's over prepared, because you can, if me being kind of having gotten my start as an over preparer, I feel like I can unravel that, And some directors don't. They don't want that, and for good reason. Sometimes when an actor's too locked in their choices and there's time running out and you just don't have time to peel the potato, So there is two schools of thought, So I don't always think it's the right thing to over prepare, but I say early on for your education, at least for me who didn't have formal training.
Sure.
I felt that even if let's say I didn't get the part because I was over prepared or I was too locked in and there was just something overly rehearsed about my performance. I think I looked at myself as an acting student who was auditioning. I still had the kind of student mentality. So I felt it was important for me to over prepare. And if I didn't get something, I'd learn, I would make adjustments. And I learned on Community from my castmates. They later told me, like, at some point when you know your character so well, you don't have to prepare, and it was, and I remember Alison Brie telling me, like, I think at this point with your character, you can just go with your gut rather than just kind of consult your coach. Because I was doing that a lot because I had booked Community and I'd only quit my job like less than 2 years prior. So I was thrust in. I had a lot of opportunity. I think before I was ready and before, I was maybe 39 or 40, so I was old in age, but I was a 2-year baby. I was only doing acting full time for 2 years, much less becoming famous. So there was a lot of, at that time I had a lot of pressure where I felt an obligation where, okay, I'm getting all this opportunity, I'm working a lot, I better really I would sometimes be overly coaching myself and over preparing, which I actually became in many ways a detriment because I got too locked in when I had equity where I could afford to be open-minded, and I think that, so now I think I look at certain things on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I think if there's it depends on the role, depends on the project, depends on how large the role is, I've had some of my best moments in the latter parts of my career by just being incredibly easy with the flow and incredibly with an open mind.
Yeah, I think the student mentality is super important. There's a humility, right? And being open to learning new things. And then just kind of that curiosity. And I think it's super important, like this idea of you were a 2-year-old in terms of showbiz years.
Yep.
And that is at the point where you're a sponge and you're soaking it all up.
Yep.
And maybe artists at any stage of their career need to remember that phase and like be in touch with that inner child. I make mistakes I make ego mistakes every day. Every day sure. I feel like I know something and I feel like I back it up with aptitude. And so many times I have been wrong. Mm-hmm. So many, even now, I feel like my challenge now is to be confident without being entitled. I think that really is, because I think there's a level of success after a while. You become entitled even if you don't mean it. And okay. I think that because if you're a professor at a school, if you're a doctor at a university for 15 years, you're going to have an ego, and you should have an ego. The ego will, and I'm not talking about ego like number of M&Ms in my trailer. I'm not talking about being a diva, being an ego of like, I have a path, I have a lane, this is my brand, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I think about that. I think in terms of that, I know who I am, I know my voice, therefore I'm not going to choose that path or take that performance note. And that is wrong. And I think I should always consider it. I should always, doesn't matter what level, I can always disagree and I can always make a mistake. I'm not saying I have to say yes to everything or yes to every suggestion, but I really need to push myself. And if I truly want to push myself, you'll truly let it go even when you don't want to. Like, I'm a big NBA fan, and when Michael Jordan won his first championship, he got to the finals by dunking
his way, in the finals against the Lakers like 30 years ago in 1991. So they were in the closing situation where they were about to close the series and beat the Lakers for the title, and Jordan just kept doing what he does best. And he was doing well. It was a tie game, but he kept like dunking, but they kept finding answers for him. He kept going to the rim. And there was one shooter, John Paxson, who was their best three-point shooter, who was wide open. And I remember I heard, can I curse here? I don't know if I can curse on
Absolutely.
this. Okay, well, I heard Phil Jackson telling Michael Jordan, who's open? And even Michael knew. He goes, Pax is open. He will get him the fucking ball.
Yeah.
And that, to me, you're telling the best player in the world, who is the face of the league, who is literally... And you had a person that stood up to him in a crucial moment.
So important. Yeah.
And it was a come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Jordan didn't like it, but he got over it, passed it, and Paxson literally scored 16 points because he had the hot hand. And they crushed the Lakers. It wasn't like a nail biter, where Jordan barely won. They crushed the Lakers. It was a landslide. So those moments, if I'm ever in those moments, I have to eat my ego, eat my vision. When I mean the ego, I mean my own vision. Eat my vision. I'm at a point in my life where I do believe, like I said, I only wanted to be a working actor. That was my whole goal. It wasn't to be famous. If I could make an income kind of compatible to what I was making as a physician, great. Right. But I would do it as a working actor. That was really my goal. And I feel that goal has been fulfilled and then some. And so I tell my wife this all the time. I said, I think I'm at my best when I look at the rest of my career as a bonus. If I look at it as a bonus, that, because then there's no pressure. I have no pressure to live up to my brand or my vision or my expectations or my lifestyle. Like if I'm at my best when I don't think that way. And maybe it's because being in London reminded me of that. I wasn't thinking that way, and I think it's a mindset I really need to push myself more often, and just and it's funny sometimes when you have a level of success, you're thinking like, you know what, I was really good. I have no ego. This director told me to do something, and I didn't want to do it, and I said yes, and it was great. No, you got to it's just more than that. You really got to do either the whole movie like that or do, you know what I mean? You got to push through, you can't just be satisfied with a baby step, and that, I feel like that to me is where I need to grow, and sometimes we're all guilty of it after a while. You get used to yourself, and then you don't want to think like a student anymore because you don't have to, but it's a reminder.
You don't want to play it safe. It goes back to taking risks.
Yep.
It's easier to just play it safe and be pragmatic and do what you know.
Yeah, and maybe just because I just got off the phone with one of my kids who's at camp right now, so I was like talking about stuff like life.
Oh, this is perfect mentality.
Yeah, it's perfect mentality. So probably there was a lot of I'm projecting some other healthy issue, but it's healthy projection. But this is kind of like so it's been on my brain more than it usually is in the last few days of trying to and then that's a big priority for me too, is to kind of practice what I preach. Because I'm kind of preaching that. If I'm preaching that, I better practice it myself.
Yeah. And I think speaking it out loud does kind of help.
Yeah.
The idea.
Jeez, I didn't know this be the envelope, the therapy edition. Jesus, I'm so sorry.
Sometimes it gets a little therapeutic. Yeah.
Good Lord.
This idea of eating my vision it's just so spot on. It really is like you're saying about Michael Jordan. It's confidence. It's confidence, sure, but it's not being attached to some ego that prevents you from learning new things, being open to new experiences.
Because I can't get better if I'm too attached to anything artistically. I can't. There's just no way.
Yeah. Or if you're too dwelling on, like you said, like your success. If you get too wrapped up in that. Or even fame, which this is kind of a separate issue, but Yeah, and that's a whole other, definitely a whole other beast. I mean, and it's funny you talk about being older. I think that aspect is definitely is easier to deal with when you're older. I think being famous at 40 is a lot easier to deal with and being married with 2 kids at 40, and I think it's a lot easier to deal with than being famous at 20. I think I have a lot of
how do I say, I have a lot of empathy and respect of anyone who can handle it well in their 20s, because it's I don't think I'd be able to handle it as well as some people who I've known for many years who really have successfully navigated themselves. Have come out of it stronger. I think it's really hard. No one prepares you, because everyone's different and everyone's looking for something different. So it's really hard. And I think that is, I think it's much harder when you get that younger. It's very, very blinding, very blinding. Yeah.
Because you got to experience it at 38, when I love this idea of like you treated it as a child, but when somebody's 20 and going through that, they basically are a child.
They are a child.
And you had the benefit of a couple decades of experience as an adult to then revert back and create like a new identity on top of that.
Yeah. And I felt like empowered with that thought, because I felt like acting is all about referencing your life, and I've had lived a life. And so I don't think I would, I might have had the talent, and I might have had maybe even younger looks to get some work in my 20s. Sometimes I thought that, when I started getting successful, like what would it have been like if I was in my 20s doing it? But I also felt like, well, you know what? I do believe the enduring thing of being an actor or a performer is being able to reference your life and to be able to reference things. And the reason why I got knocked up the part was because I played a version of a doctor who on a bad day, and I had a nuanced vision for that doctor, and so I played that part. It was based on a couple of physicians I knew, including myself, and so only because I had that 15-year history of being in medicine and being able to tease out the nuances, but I never thought for a second he was a bad guy. He was on. That's him on a Monday, and he probably had just gotten off call, and the hospital probably made him take double the call, see twice as many patients, and he's like just in a fuck you mood, and so
that's so cool.
And so I really felt, I didn't play him as a villain, as an antagonist in the movie. I played him as a burned out guy, and I do remember Seth Rogen, who also was an EP on the movie, he did say, I really believed that you're burned out. I really, like in your, even on, he had seen my reel on tape. He'd seen my audition. He goes, I really believe kind of the burnout, and so I don't get that if I'm 20 years old auditioning for a movie. So I get that only because I'm 37. I only get that because I've lived a life.
Amazing.
So there's no amount of teaching or talent in the world that can get you to that state. It's life that gets you there. So, it makes me look at acting in a totally different light as something that, I can continue on in for the rest of my life. Just always do something that's acting, because you can reference something, It's not like I did something recently where I'm even referencing something I did on Masked Singer. Like there's just like in the character. So I was able. So acting is referencing something you can just reference on your life, And I think that I'm always tracking that. I'm always looking for ways to push myself, and like producing and directing and doing other things too, just to see if I can, if I can.
That is pure acting advice gold. I think truly, like even the idea of living your life that informs acting. Thank you for this like window into your process. I have to ask you, speaking of Masked Singer, I have to ask you about hosting and being a panelist. And then I think producing, and I'm actually curious, how much do those things overlap? For Masked Singer and for I Could See Your Voice, does any of that have to do with the acting you were just speaking about, or are these separate skills?
I definitely think there is. I definitely think there's overlap. I think on Masked Singer is, for me, it's the best TV job ever, because it's built to be a blind experiment where we don't know who the contestants are, and that's all true. We don't. Yeah. We have the. It really is the best TV job you can ask for, and just beyond grateful that the format. What I've learned about Unscripted, a great format's like a great script. That format is unbeatable.
Okay.
That Masked Singer format is unbeatable.
There's a reason why it's such a hit.
There's a reason why it's successful. It appeals to adults. It appeals to kids.
Yeah.
It's a game show, but there's actually no cash prizes. It's really a meta game show. There's a lot of meta aspects to it. If you break it down to its artistic elements, it's an incredible case study that I'm sure like maybe TV and film professors may study and analyze why this became such a huge hit, because it surprised everyone. No one knew it would be this big.
I was going to ask. You didn't know signing on. Yeah.
No. Well, my mom she had an idea because it was the #1 show in Korea. I'm of Korean descent, and my parents, although they live in the U.S., they have a satellite dish that gets Korean programming, and that's all my mom watches. So when I told her I was offered to be a panelist on The Masked Singer, my mom sent me links on YouTube, and she was actually
she knew.
She knew. She actually said this will. It's crazy like she said this, but it really happened. She goes, this will be a game changer for you.
Amazing.
It was crazy. She said that this will change your career. I don't know if she used the word game changer, but she said this will change your career. This will really. She was so convinced. It was amazing to hear her conviction, and that was any lingering doubt of me doing something in the unscripted space, because I hadn't before then. I was like, okay, I will. Again, it's another just leap of faith,
Yeah, and someone nudging you. Yeah.
Someone nudging me, and I had doubts about it, and then this happened, and now we've done 6 seasons already. It's crazy. Yeah. So and what I've learned on that show is it's the only thing I've ever done that. See, I'm really a perfectionist at heart. I want it. I want my takes to be as perfect as possible. I'm the guy who over prepares in auditions.
Right.
It's the only thing. It's a game show, and I'm really not good at it. I'm not good at it. I'm playing it up sometimes, but at my core, I'm really not good at it. And I'm not a professional singer. I don't have not a recording artist. And to be able to utilize my improv background, my stand-up background, and just kind of my self-awareness you learn as an actor, you get into a mind state. Again, I kind of get locked in on Masked Singer where it's me, but it's a different version of me. Mm-hmm. And it's so lovely to be recognized and to be successful for something that you're not good at, but you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
It's the most fun TV job I've ever had, because I don't have any responsibilities. Like it's unlike Dr. Ken, where I created and wrote that show and I EP'd. I did everything on that show. Yeah. And even as an actor, you want to make sure all your takes are perfect. But in the unscripted space, it's all about flow. It's not about, they're never looking for, it's unscripted. You're not reading off of anything. So they just want you have to be authentic.
And that's pushing you outside your box.
It totally pushes me outside my comfort zone. Yeah. And also it's really, it's how to channel to the world that you're not good at something, and then you really are having fun with it. Cause it is, and I like when I do play Trivial Pursuit, when I do like game nights with family and friends, I just tapped into a side of me that like I'm never competitive when I play these games, so I'm not. I've always been like this as a kid. I just joke around when even game night, even like you play Yahtzee or Jenga or anything. I'm just that guy. I'm just like the goof. I'm always been like so. I just tapped into that somewhere along the line. That first season it worked, and now honestly I do. Part of it is a little, and I've never said this publicly, part of it is a little shout out to a comedic friend of mine who has passed on, but his name is Brody Stevens, and he's always really made fun of himself. His act was really making He would deliberately tell a bad joke, get a boo, and almost like Andy Kaufman, he would berate the crowd for not getting his jokes, but he knew he was telling a bad joke. He knew he was deliberately telling bad jokes, and then he was waiting for the crowd to not respond, and then he just gets so upset, and it's all performative.
Yeah.
And so
making the audience a character almost.
And now that this season is really my favorite because we had a live audience back. They're fully vaccinated. We had a live audience back, and there were times where I would do guesses, and it's been a long time, so you just hear boos, like a chorus of boos of like a guess. And I was kind of trying. I remember I was doing it. They were genuinely booing me, and then just like Brody, I was like, "How dare you?" I was in The Hangover. I just said that like as any reason, like, "How dare you boo a star of my status? How dare you? I know it's Bjork or whatever, it's just like, how dare you, and like
totally drawing on your real life experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally will go down my IMDb list and go, how dare you? I was in Big Mama's House 3 and I stole it. At the cold open. Have you ever been in Big Mama's House 3? I don't think so. Like, I remember telling an audience member something, like getting into a mock argument with an audience member. Yeah. I was in Transformers Dark of the Moon. How about you? Okay? How about you? And it's lovely to, whether they include this or not in the show, it's the flow. I'm not doing it for an edit, for a soundbite. In my head, I'm doing it for... I'm doing it for performative flow, and that's what acting is. That's what performing is, and in anything I do in life is about finding that flow. Yeah. And so I know when I've done a good job on Masked Singer where there's a good flow, and you're just in a state of mind where it's just you just got a good flow going on, and it's the best. And all four judges and the panelists and the contestant, sometimes there's this kind of almost like an improv game that they're doing. We're not doing it, but but we're stepping back, listening, and I think I have learned the hallmark of being a good broadcaster, and this is what this is stepping back and listening, and that's what acting is, and it's, but you're doing it as an improv. It happens to be an unscripted space. Sometimes it happens to be in a scripted space. So being an unscripted, it really definitely has made me a better performer. So cool. And then what's really cool, like on I Can See Your Voice, where I'm hosting that, I'm not in the sweet spot as a panelist where I just get to crack wise, So I'm doing all the unsung hero stuff. I'm literally there to provide exposition. I'll joke around when you watch me live, but I know that, and I prefer not to be too comedic. Like my sister-in-law said, I like you on Masked Singer because you get to be this certain version of yourself that everyone knows, and I like you on I Can See Your Voice because you I feel like this is the real you. I mean, you see me being empathetic to contestants, wanting to win $100,000, and I get. Sometimes I'll get notes from my producer Craig Plestis, and where he produces both shows, and he will say, sometimes you're getting too emotionally attached to the content, which is good. That's cool. But I think I want, but I like that because I like the fact that the audience knows that I care, and Absolutely. So there's always like these wonderful moments and like heartfelt moments. And
real reality TV. Yeah.
Real reality TV with a good heart. Yeah. This is that. Yeah. And I've experienced so many moments on this show where, and not to give anything away, but I'll go ahead and do it. But because I'm an EP on the show and I'll allow myself to do it. But upcoming this season, there was one contestant that was. I get choked up thinking about it because she, just like any game show, there were trials and tribulations during this episode. There was an arc, as they say in writing. There was an arc, and a real life arc, and she was so emotional about it and was like saying, this is she just kept saying, "This is my time. This is my time." And it was during, it was still during pandemic, and there was a lot of reasons why she had to make ultimate sacrifices due to COVID. There's a lot of backstory that I don't want to totally give away, but she just kept saying to herself, it was like, this is my, and that to me is maybe in scripted or unscripted TV, my favorite moment ever, because just to witness that is very powerful and very deep, and we all have those moments in our lives, in our careers where this is my time. And I related to everything she said. I just related. I got it. That's the thing
with reality TV, like unscripted content. Is it safe to say it's almost like the best of it mimics scripted content and the emotionality and the emotional arcs of scripted content, or vice versa? Is scripted content meaning to capture something about real life? It's fascinating how they overlap.
Well, I mean, when you watch Nomadland, and just see elements of reality, it's so raw.
Yeah, blending the two together. Yeah,
you're blending the two together, and I feel there will be more hybrids of art that happen, because the lines are blurring. Even when I started, there was a line between scripted and unscripted movies and TVs and doing commercials. That line's completely blurred with so much content. It's completely blurred. There are Oscar winners that are doing, Jamie Foxx is doing Beat Shazam. There's Oscar. Everyone is crisscrossing. Yeah. Kevin Hart is doing everything, scripted or unscripted. And I think that there will be more projects like Nomadland. There'll be projects and there's some projects I participated in that I don't think I'm at liberty to say right now. Some I hate saying top secret projects. There are some projects that I participated in that really that have flirted with that. And it's funny, the last couple of projects I've done recently, I have referenced more. I've just tapped in some of my unscripted experience for inspiration. Cool. It's amazing. Like I'm tapping into that, going for either that emotion or how I felt that day about something, and how like there's certain things I want to do in my own future of my own. I have a couple of projects that I'm developing that I want to mimic elements of unscripted, where there's just a rawness there. There's I want to try to go there if possible, and it's even I don't know what I'm doing, but that's again getting out of myself. It's okay. I don't know. I'm there are moments where I'm trying to push for that are just for personal growth, that are just for artistic growth and some satisfaction that I tried. Yeah, just following my gut, and that's so I really think that it really is. It's a combination of letting certain vanity aspects, even stuff I don't think I'm vain about, go, and then trusting my gut and seeing where that goes. So wonderful. I feel like that's the rest of my life, whatever that is.
It should, absolutely. It's absolutely the philosophy going forward. And I think the point you're making about the current climate this past year and a half, it's really gotten us all to think about what we value, and maybe gets us closer to that gut, I think. And in that, maybe even like in that flow or in that pocket where you feel more creatively, I don't know, connected to something because we're going through it. And surviving.
I feel like we're all going through this, with so much media going on, and whether it's information or misinformation.
Yes.
It's weird where if you watch, I watch cable news 24/7. I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, and it's like there is like a real life Truman Show that we're all going through at some time, and so we're all going through this together. And there's so much media. There's so much coverage where we're in an unprecedented age in terms of technology and information that, if anything, we need to find ways to compartmentalize and capsulize it for our own sanity. And as artists, how can we use this to inspire us to think outside the box? Because right now, as a world, we're having to think outside the box to get in front of the Delta variant and to get in front of other potential variants. And there's a lot of, and the most successful at it right now are the ones that are thinking outside the box. And, it's really, science is looking for out of the box thinkers, and so in my own world too is really trying to challenge myself. And because I feel like there's something there that I have potential for that I haven't even done yet.
And it's all about each of us asking what we can do in these times.
Yep.
And I want to ask about like what you just mentioned about as artists, there's the creative fuel aspect. But can I ask, I know you've thought about maybe it's more the fame aspect. Like, do you feel like you have a responsibility to use your work to address these times? I have to let you go soon, but I want to make sure that we tackle, the anti-Asian hate that has arisen also in these times. What are each of our personal responsibilities? Like, how do you think about that professionally and then personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel a sense of responsibility. I feel like all Asian American artists have a sense of responsibility, to our, especially, with all the hate crimes that went on, like in the Asian American community, we all know someone, friend or relative, that was having an incident, and so it really is. I think Crazy Rich Asians, Fresh Off the Boat, even Dr. Ken, like that, it really changed my way of thinking, or galvanized my way of thinking of being a minority in show business. Is that Crazy Rich Asians was incredible because John Chu was like, it's not a movie, it's a movement, and I think about that all the time. Yeah. So we are all part of the greater collective. So rising tides lifts all boats in this climate. So, like watching Shang-Chi is my favorite Marvel movie. Cool. And if people ask me, is it because of the representation? I'm like, yes. Yep. That's exactly why it's my favorite movie. Yep. It's a great movie, and I'm seeing people like myself on that screen making a great movie. And people don't know how inspiring that is. And you feel like a sense of pride and happiness when movies like Shang-Chi is happening. And this is a movie I have no participation in, but I feel as if, we all win, and that's such a powerful feeling. And that's why you have so many Asian Americans. The most beautiful feeling, I've seen in the last 7 days, because this is the number one movie in the world. Yeah. And the whole, you see all of my Asian American friends and peers, they're all just like so happy, and just like, and it's just a wonderful, it's a great moment, it's a bright light in a lot of darkness. And I think, credit goes to Destin, the director, and Simu and Awkwafina and Michelle and everybody involved. It's just a great movie, and I just can't wait. Like, I just have to see it again. It's one of those great movies. And then personally, it's great to know that, movies like this are economically fruitful. Hollywood will make more. And that's the same thing that happened with Crazy Rich Asians being a part of that. That was the number one movie, and so then everyone was trying to do Crazy Rich Asians, their version of it, which is great. And then that translated other people trying to do all Asian American program with more Asian Americans behind the scenes. Even on Dr. Ken, which I was really proud of, we actually had an 5 all Asian American cast members. And Fresh Off the Boat had the same thing. And so we had 2 Asian American family shows at one time. I mean, ABC was ahead of its time. And we had that. But there were still limitations, at least from my end, behind the scenes. I would like more of my projects, a couple of projects that I'm developing now, we are definitely all in agreement of having way more Asian American representation, not just on the screen, but like, in terms of department heads or in terms of writing, in terms of like really getting more authenticity behind the scenes, like, at the department head level and crews and things like that. I think
that feels like the next level.
Yeah, that's next level. And that's what I'm pushing for. And that's what everyone's pushing for. Whether we'll get there, I don't know, but we'll keep pushing. I do know someone will get there. I do know someone will get exactly, who knows if and by I mean, if I get there, I don't know. I don't know if either project you don't know if these projects see the light of day, if they get made into series, you just don't know. But we keep pushing and pushing, and we just keep pushing and pushing and not be deterred. Just, we just keep pushing and pushing. So, but to answer to your original question we all do and should feel a sense of responsibility to participate in this movement, to do something.
Do what we can. Yeah. And I think knowing yourself and going back to the life experience thing, that does inform what you can then do or provide to such a movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, it's a challenging world we live in, but you can still make it.
Yeah. You
can still make it an exciting one. I think I'm an optimist at heart, and I think that I remember saying this in a graduation speech. I don't know if things happen for a reason, but I know, I don't know if all things happen for a reason, but I know all things happen, and it's up to us to kind of finish that act 3, of Beautiful. That script. Yeah. It's really up to us to finish it. It's up to us to kind of finish up the script. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That just tied it all together. Thank you so much, Ken. This is awesome.
Thank you so much, Jack. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
So appreciate it.
I can't wait to do the real thing. This is a great dress rehearsal. So when we do the real thing tomorrow,
this is our table.
I hope I bring almost the same amount of energy. I promise you. This is the best dress rehearsal of an interview I've ever had. I mean, maybe the best dress rehearsal ever. I can't wait till all the equipment is on.
This was all scripted too, by the way. This is you reading Watkins.
I think you hit all your bullet points as if they were improvised. You listened, you gave. We really hit our beats, and it's like putting on a play. We just put on this play 6 months in advance, a lot of workshopping. Yes. Yeah. Was there an arguments between us? Yes. Do we disagree on some things? Yes. But I really think at the end of this dress rehearsal, it felt real. Even though it wasn't. It felt so... I mean, I was moved. There were times I was emotional. And I was like, you are so good, Jack. You put...
Thank you,
your last name is no joke, son.
Well,
you are Jack Smart. That's all I have to say.
That's
great.
Your goal too. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you, brother.
I get to keep that for me.
Yes,
can I ask you one more question we ask everyone?
Please.
What is one performance that you think every actor should see and why? It doesn't have to be acting though. Like it could be a comedian you admire. You've mentioned so many. You just mentioned Shang-Chi is a great movie that everybody should see, of course. Is there anything that comes to mind?
I don't know why this just popped in my head, but there was... just because I recently rewatched Godfather 2, and to see Fredo as John Cazale, right? The actor playing Fredo, when he had his moment where he admitted to when he had his kind of come to Jesus talk with Al Pacino, just the lifetime of frustration, being the older brother and the younger brother's shadow, the resentment, the bearing of emotions, and he's a comedic character in the movie, but he's also the true antagonist in the movie. Such a great part, to me it's only possible with an incredible undervalued performance by John, because to me that part is every actor's dream. You're taking the viewer one way, and you think there's a lot of moments of levity at the top of that movie, and a lot of comic moments where it's like, this, and as a comedic actor, it's like, wow, this pops already. Even if he wasn't in the rest of the movie, he's already entertaining. Yeah. But with that twist and everything that was going on, to switch it from, in my head, a moment of comedy to a moment of not only drama, but to a pivot point in the story, in the movie, and then to a heartbreaking conclusion. I love that character, and then I think that speech is the pinnacle. From it was cathartic. It was even comedic in this because it was authentic, because his character was authentically funny at spots, but just that kind of resignation when he reveals that, the Senate lawyer was also owned by Roth, and then how that just sealed the blow for Michael Corleone, and he was dead to him, literally. And then to see kind of him not even acting, it's just being still. It is acting. To see him, I don't know, this moment of John at the end, just there was this moment of emptiness, and you just felt he was sitting on a couch. He wasn't doing any movement except just sitting. And it was just, there was just so much there. It makes me want to rewatch it again. But it was, it's something for me that, I'm one of the people that I can watch Godfather or Goodfellas on, if it's playing, I'll stop what I do and watch it. But that moment in Godfather 2 is just off the top of my head.
Great choice.
Yeah, but it just came off the top of my head. But such a powerful performance on so many levels. And the older I get, the more I appreciate even more. Yeah.
I feel like that's a great choice, because a lot of people pick that movie, but they'll pick Pacino, or they'll pick, a lot of the more central, maybe more loud performances. But that's a really great. You're right. It's a really hard task that he pulls off. Yeah.
I say respectfully, it may be easier to pull off that lead performance because it's so well drawn. It may not be on the level of a Pacino or a Brando, but the roadmap is there. The roadmap to that performance is there and has been laid down by so many legendary actors. That roadmap that John was providing for Fredo, there was no roadmap. He created that roadmap. And that's kind of where I want to go, is just to create my own roadmaps. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Gosh, thank you so much, Ken.
No, thank you, brother. Really great. Thank you. This is really wonderful. One of my favorite interviews ever, dude. So thank you.
Me too.
Really appreciate this. This is really enlightening. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Enlightening for me too.
In the Envelope is recorded at Lotus Productions and Hyperbolic Audio in New York City, and Soundbox LA, Mark Grouse Studios, and Buzzies in Los Angeles. Thanks as always to our producer extraordinaire, Jamie Muffett, and to the team at Backstage, Samantha Sherlock, Mark Stinson, Caitlin Watkins, and of course, Kasey Howe. Visit Backstage.com, and don't forget, you can subscribe to Backstage by using the code ENVELOPE at checkout for a free trial. That's right, 100% free. For more exclusive content, join us on Facebook and Twitter at In the Envelope, and subscribe, share, and leave a comment. Who would you like us to interview next? Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for another glimpse in the envelope.